Yeah. So this is the pitch for my FMP, which is currently called The Contact, although that could change if I come up with a better idea, or a better title. So I started by coming up with the idea change, and then seeing what a group of 17 and 18-year-olds thought about it. And then I took those ideas home and talked to my family, whose ages ranged like up to 50, to see what they thought about them as well. So some key points, we've got that along here, time machines. So we talked about change from now to the future, and how I could do a plot about time machines and how somebody might have a traumatic event in their past and how they might want to have a redo and try and improve their own history. We then talked about seeking change and how people use books, films and video games as a form of escapism to ignore reality or their actual life if they don't, if there's something wrong. Which led to the idea of somebody using VR to ignore their own life, which we thought was an interesting plot. And then we talked about technology and how I did that for my previous FMP, and how a sort of Black Mirror style short film on technology and the problems worked last time and could be interesting again. I then did 3 focus groups and talked about genre. And as I just said, I did sci-fi before, so we talked about how if I understood it already, I could do a more complicated and more ambitious plot. We then talked about action and how films with action are always popular, and how if people, if there is physical violence on screen, people enjoy it as there's physical stakes. We then talked about mystery films and how when there is a big build-up to the climax of the film, people enjoy them more. And then lastly with genre, we talked about combination. So we said combining those, like sci-fi and mystery would then make a more interesting plot. Then came up with these 4 ideas. So first I talked about a clone idea. So the idea of somebody finding out that they are a clone and then dealing with that and how it affects their life. We talked about the VR idea. So somebody either seeing themselves in VR and wondering how that's happened, or using VR and then ignoring their actual life and then learning from the VR world how to live a better life. Then I had an idea inspired by Memento of somebody waking up in the middle of nowhere, unsure how they got there, and with only one contact on their phone, and then you have to work out what's happened. And then we've got the time travel idea of somebody going back in time to have to change something, either in their life or in sort of someone else's, but then because they're in the past, they can't remember why they are there, because in time those events haven't happened. I then did a survey and found that 43.5% of people thought that the person waking up in the middle of nowhere and having to work out what happened, that was the most popular idea. But everybody who said yes to that idea then told me or messaged me and said that they agreed with what I put at the end of the description, which is it could be combined with the clone idea to make a more interesting plot. So everybody agreed that that sounded the best. So my final plot outline is the person will wake up and they'll be confused. They will then check their phone and find that there is only one contact, or they will have had a recent phone call of half an hour ago. They will try to message them, but they will have no response. Then there'll be a series of scenes, like a montage of them trying to work out what's happened. Then they will receive a response from this contact. There'll then be a sort of Western-style standoff across a field, where they will sort of talk, try and work out what happened. The person they're talking to, this contact, will reveal something that leads to a black and white flashback and the reveal that they are a clone of that person. There will then be an internal struggle, and then the film will the film will end in a sort of depressing way, because that's what the focus group all agreed they wanted. But it will either end with the character killing himself, or a sort of cleverer, sort of depressing end. Potential issues, we've got deadlines, so I'm going to stick to my production schedule, and if anything major changes, I have to reschedule anything, I'll keep it up to date. I'm going to keep locations in mind while I'm planning, just to make sure I don't include anything that will be impossible to find. Then the film festival I've found doesn't allow any copyrighted music, so I'm going to have to make one edit with no copyrighted music, all royalty free, and then if I want to make one with copyright music that I can submit as the FMP. Then depression is a difficult topic, so I'm going to have to fully research that, and then I will do a series of test shoots to understand the equipment and any new techniques, such as showing two people played by the same actor in the same shot. And then with actors, if they are unreliable, I'm just going to make sure I'm going to cast only people I can trust, and then I'm going to send them the script as early as possible so that they can read it through and be as prepared as they can be.